Ryan, welcome to Millionaire University. Super happy to have you here today and can't wait to dive into all things print on demand. Welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me, Kirsten. Yeah, I'm excited to talk print on demand and maybe be like the print on demand ambassador for Millionaire University.
Love it. I think that would be amazing. Okay, let's dive into this because you have extensive background with selling online, whether that be FBA, print on demand, and even Amazon influencer. And we've talked a little bit about some of those things on our show. The thing that I feel like that is on a lot of people's minds that is happening even more rapidly because of the advent of AI and I'm just seeing a lot of content about this online, print on demand. So first of all, just introduce to us what that means, what that is for anybody who's listening that's like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm glad to. Print on demand is I think of it as like an e-commerce business model. I'm always thinking of it as a seller, but of course there's plenty of people that think of it as buyers too, which is just fine. Really it is e-commerce or commerce because there's also, local print on demand. Like if you've ever been to the beach on a boardwalk, you see a lot of t-shirt
Mm,
shops and you know how they stock like blank t-shirts and you can
yeah.
kind of walk in and see, 100 different designs, pick one that you like, and then they will go and they will press that design onto the shirt
Hmm.
and boom, you've got a brand new t-shirt, exactly the right color, the right size with the design that you wanted. So that was printed on demand. And this
Hmm.
industry's really expanded a lot in recent years. Not that it wasn't big before COVID, but I know it gained a lot of notoriety then as well when people were, looking for ways to generate money online from home. And it's really a great opportunity if you ask me, because when compared to some of the other e-commerce businesses that I'm familiar with that I've done, it doesn't have a lot of startup costs. And if you ask me, like there is a little bit of front-loaded learning curve, but it's not too
Hmm.
bad. And once you're over that hump, uh, you put in a lot of repetitions and that stuff. The repetitions that you put in tend to be very similar. It's not like a lot of new stuff gets thrown at you. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because that can be one of the hardest things about starting any new business is like there's constantly now there's another level, now there's another level, and you feel like you're never going to be out of that learning curve and actually making money and just doing the same thing over and over. Repetition is a good thing when it's not new reps. I mean,
right.
I think about that at the gym. Like, I can do this one, introduce a new one, and it's a whole other like mindset shift. So, yeah, that's good to know.
See, so when I'm doing the same thing over and over, like I like to challenge
Yeah.
myself to get better and better and better to produce higher quality work in as little as time as possible. And I think that's a big part of what allowed me to be successful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Agree 100%. Okay, so for somebody who is new to this, to print on demand, they're going to listen to this episode. I want to really guide them through some of those getting started pieces. So what platform do you recommend starting with and why?
So I would recommend if you're brand new to print on demand, this is a new concept to you entirely. There is a platform called Redbubble. It's literally what it sounds like, redbubble.com. And why I recommend using it as a beginner, you can open your seller account in minutes and you can create your first product listing that day. You know what I mean? In less
Hmm.
than an hour, you can be up and running as a seller with products listed for sale. And theoretically, it could be purchased. It's not, realistic to think that, oh, I just posted something online and I'm going to get a sale that same day. I mean, it is possible, but it's not realistic as a beginner. But what's cool about Redbubble is very low barrier of entry. So you can, I don't know, get a small win. You know what I mean? You can go through the
Hmm.
reps of creating a design, doing a little bit of SEO, search engine optimization. Without that, the computer algorithm's not going to know what you're selling. It's not going to get in front of the right people. But it's also minimal with Redbubble. It's like really a title and some tags. That's really what the drivers are going to be that help your product listings get found. And they also support, I think, over like 100 print-on-demand products. So you can upload one design and make it available on just a wide assortment of products. T-shirts are my favorite personally, and I've sold more t-shirts than anything else, but there's plenty of different products. And I mean, we could talk more about that if you'd like.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And you mentioned like there's very minimal investment for people when they're starting a business model like this. So what are some of those essential tools that they would want to have? I mean, I love the software recommendation, the platform. What else are we needing to factor in is in terms of expenses?
The real like must-have expenses that you can't get away from, in my personal opinion, are in order to sell on Amazon Seller Central, it costs $39.99 a month. Now, Amazon, hopefully that's nothing new to the listeners. It is the number one e-commerce website in the world. I keep it simple with my approach. Like
Mm,
before you worry about starting your own brand and paying for traffic to drive traffic to your own website, not that those aren't viable ways of making sales. but I want to be where the customers are. You know what I mean? I
Mm.
don't want customers to have to like seek me out or to have seen my ad. You know what I mean? I want to be where they go to buy things. So if I
Mhm.
establish a presence on Amazon.com through Amazon Seller Central, uh, I can get in front of hundreds of millions of people right away. It also opens the doors to international sales, even if you only sell on Amazon.com. I don't know exactly why, but you will see international orders if you enable fulfillment for international orders as well. So that's $39.99. And
Mm.
I highly recommend selling print on demand on Etsy.com as well. With that, it is 20 cents per product listing. And that's every 4 months. You also pay, it's called a renewal fee. So you also pay it when you initially launch the product, and you pay it every time it sells. So it's a pretty minor cost, but I mean, it can add up if you have a bunch of product listings that aren't generating sales. And then
Mhm.
I know I'd read that Etsy, I haven't opened up a new Etsy seller account in recent years, but I think they added like a $15 one-time fee for new seller accounts. I don't know if that's like always the case, but I had read that somewhere.
Okay, so pretty minimal in terms of your output, especially compared to other business models that have a lot of software costs or a lot of things. I think when we shifted from brick and mortar into this online space, that was kind of one of the promises is very low overhead, but we can very quickly add up to be a couple $1,000s a month in costs. And so that's good to know. It really has like that low startup appeal. So how much with that being said, you really don't need a whole lot of startup capital saved to launch something like this and really start making money, right?
That is 100% true. Now, not to misrepresent that, like there's plenty of things you can pay for.
Yeah.
There is plenty, right? That's never it's never an issue. There's always software tools and the
Mhm.
latest greatest, AI tool or those exist.
Yeah.
But I want it to be clear that to start and to make money, it's not that it's impossible to make money because you didn't pay for this software. It's not like that. What I just described with Etsy and Amazon, you can then connect because you don't want to do fulfillment of your orders, right? You want to outsource that. At least I do,
Mhm.
right? I'm focused on scaling. So you can connect with the biggest company. It used to be two companies. They recently merged into one, is either Printful or Printify. Okay. Those are the two big companies that merged. They're the most commonly used for sellers to outsource fulfillment. They both integrate with Amazon and Etsy. So I like to
Mm.
integrate, and I use both. What's cool is you can start with either one of them completely for free. Okay. But they both also offer a monthly subscription where you can essentially get your orders fulfilled at a discount. And what's cool is you don't need to start with that. Really, it's simple math, right? If it costs, let's say, $30 a month for the subscription, all you need to do is say, well, I'm making on average X number of orders per month. And if I have the subscription, it will save me equal to 30 or more than 30. Therefore, I will,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? It's like, so you just keep it simple there.
Yeah.
That is one thing you would make a lot of logical sense to pay for. Otherwise, you're just losing money at some point, right? Is that threshold. Beyond that, there's, plenty of tools that can make your life a lot easier. I just don't recommend them to beginners. I think beginners
Mhm.
should roll up their sleeves, put in the reps, really understand the like ground level, the nuts and bolts of the business. To me, that means research, which of course that means like you can do it yourself, but there's research tools. Okay.
Mhm.
It's design, which you can do it in, whatever app you choose. There's no right or wrong answer. I know things like Canva is very popular. Kittl is like another kind of Canva, more geared for print on demand sellers. That's very popular. Those are just web-based applications that are, I think it's like less than $10 a month, either one.
Yeah.
I've used Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator for so long that that's where I'm very comfortable as well. And
Mhm.
so what I'm trying to illustrate is that like there's always software solutions that you can pay for that'll make your life easier. And for me, like I've even found there's automation tools. So I started adopting automation tools very early on because I used to be a web developer prior to me. I call that in my past life, prior to me doing the entrepreneur stuff full time. And with the automation tools, you can literally replace the reps that you're doing. I think you can automate about 95% of a print on demand business down the road. Okay, that's the level
Mm.
I'm at. You know what I mean? I have like different laptops that just run all day automating things. I have scripts that let me automate the design process in Adobe Illustrator. Like there's so many really cool
Wow.
things you can do, but I would not recommend skipping to that stage.
Mhm. Yeah, because it's not likely it's gonna stick. You're gonna stick to it if you overwhelm yourself with too many steps right out the gate, which is really important to know. What are some of the common misconceptions that a lot of people have when they're starting a print on demand business? Like, because I know that we can definitely hear, "Oh, that's so simple. You have this service that can do this. You just sell it here." And we think like, "Oh, it'll be so easy, right? I'll just throw some products." And I love that you qualified that with, you're probably not gonna just make a sale just because you created one listing. What are some other things that people that get in their way because they believe that we need to clear up?
Yeah, right along those lines, like one of the biggest misconceptions is that like, it's that I posted something for sale. It's a big deal to us if it were first timers, but it's not a big deal to anybody else. Like the name of the
Mhm.
game really to me is visibility. It's getting your product in front of the right people at the right time. And, you know, that's the challenge, right? That's the challenge for any and every business, not just print on demand.
Mhm.
It's funny when like a first time, e-commerce seller wants to celebrate like that their shop just went live and they don't understand that like Google's not just going to start sending you traffic that day. It might take a year for Google to send you traffic and little things like that. I mean, it's not that you should diminish what you've accomplished, but just being a realist about what it really takes to be successful. Um, and I mean, I love when people are skeptical. Most people these days are, I think we've seen enough like
Mhm.
fake gurus that dangle big numbers, but aren't telling the full story or may even be outright lying. Like it takes time to be successful with a business like print on demand. There are different ways to sell print on demand. Like I said, if you were a multi-million dollar drop shipper that is very experienced with Shopify and Facebook ads, you can literally pivot drop shipping from, overseas to your customer to just a print on demand business model where it gets fulfilled in the US and goes to your customer. That's cake, if you're
Mhm.
familiar with that. But if you're brand new to print on demand and you want to take my approach, which is get the easy money first. I call it my Ryan's method approach, which is just selling on Amazon and Etsy, right? Because if you do the work just for Amazon, then doing like that same, like it's not even the same work. You don't have to redo the research or redo the design. You've done that. But posting that same thing for sale on Etsy is very easy. Like literally those
Mhm.
companies I mentioned, Printful and Printify are the big two. They make it easy so that in as few clicks as possible, you can take the work you've already done and make it available now to another, X number of millions of people that prefer to shop on Etsy instead of Amazon. Then you can go even further, post it on eBay, post it on Walmart. If you do those big four pillars, not only are you indexed there, you get indexed on Google and obviously like favorable placement theoretically in Google search results as well, with multiple potential links linking to your products in search. And to me, it's just such a logical, low hanging fruit way of generating money online with print on demand, but really with anything, right? It doesn't matter what you're selling. I
Mhm.
would definitely take advantage. And that to me is like going to give you the best chance at getting over that hump. You said misconceptions. Most people think that because they posted something for sale online, that like all of a sudden the sales are going to start flooding in. And it tends to be the opposite. It's hard to get in front of people, even when you do good work. I mean, there's so much good content out there helping beginners look like experts when they initially go live with their first shop or their first product listing. The bar is pretty high.
Mhm.
That being said, like for anybody that's willing to put in the work and be persistent, I think there's always opportunity in there. And that's the biggest one. The other ones I would say in summary are like design. When with print on demand, we do create designs. Designs are subjective. Even if you actually do have like the best design, there's always going to be some percentage of people that see it and don't like it. So
Yeah.
designing is subjective. You can't appease everybody. Another one might be that you have to spend money on ads to succeed. My Ryan's method approach does not require that. It doesn't mean that you can't make logical sense out of running ads, but like it's not a requirement to succeed. There's plenty of organic traffic out there for us to sell to.
Hmm. And that being said, like when you have the organic traffic, it means that you're not just throwing out a product that you thought was cute and your grandma said was nice. You're doing product research, you're doing market research. So walk us through that. Like, I mean, we can talk about products themselves, t-shirts, different things like that, but even more importantly, I would assume is knowing what your niche is, knowing having like a very core thing. Do you recommend that all the time or do you see anybody having success with just like throwing up products themselves that are optimized, but like does the whole storefront when you're selling on platforms like Amazon and everything, does it matter? Like, do you need to have your own little store that everything fits within the same niche, or can you just kind of try this and that?
Yeah, my preferred approach is the general approach. I don't want
Mm,
to have to opt out of selling something just because like I have a shop that's only in one niche or something like that. But you also did shed some good light there because on Amazon, like we can make a brand shop, but we don't
mhm,
have to. I think on average, if you don't go out
mm,
of your way to do that, then you by default don't have that shop. So
yeah,
on Amazon, I think it's definitely not a requirement to niche down. On Etsy, I don't think it is a requirement to niche down either, but there's arguments to be made that, you should do that on Etsy because then you can increase the like average like lifetime value of a customer because you kind of
mhm,
know their interests. If you have a niche shop, if they buy product A, well then you can it's not like Shopify where you can control their checkout process and hit them with upsells on the way out. But you have, buyer seller messaging on Etsy. That's very easy to use. If you have a niche shop, you can say, hey, a week after the order was delivered, hope you love your order. By the way, just as a thank you, I wanted to send you a 30% off coupon, and
Mm,
you can automate those things. You know what I mean? So it's
yeah.
it's easy to bring people back to Etsy, but you want it to make contextual sense. If you've got a general shop, which is typically the approach I take, it doesn't make nearly as much sense. It's not going to be as effective, but it's still an effective way of increasing, the average, lifetime value of a customer.
Yeah. Okay. So if you are coming from this more general approach, walk us through what like creating a product is going to look like. Not down to the nitty gritty of like, tell me how to design, but when you don't have that niche thing in mind, which, and I'll just be honest, it flies in the face of what I hear so many other people saying. So I just want to get a view of like, what does this look like? You're just thinking like, oh, that would be a cool product, or that's a cool design idea, or that's something that's selling. Are you kind of trend surfing, like following what people are buying? Are you following your own interests and just, toggling between different things?
Yeah, there's no right or wrong way to do it. That's what's so much fun. I say there's like a million ways to make money with print on demand. You could choose your flavor. That's like one of my
Mhm.
favorite things to say. I like to do all the above personally. It also helps me as like an instructor, as a coach, to feel knowledgeable about all of the above, right? Otherwise, if
Yeah.
I'm only doing evergreens, then I can't speak to how to, pursue trends, and vice versa. A great example of why you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into one or the other is that like last year in 2024, prime example with the election in the US, the presidential election, so much money was made on things that were just overnight trends, right? Like things that
Mhm.
like there was zero search interest for yesterday. Today, massive search interest. And what's crazy is a lot of those came and went.
Mhm.
A lot of them stayed for months. So
Mhm.
that you don't know which is going to be the ones that fly by night and they just disappear after a couple days, and which are going to be with us months later, even a year later. So you wanted to pursue those trends and be like I call it tagging all of them. Like literally, if somebody searches for this trend, you have at least one product on every marketplace with that trend. And ideally multiple products on Amazon, on Etsy, on eBay, and
Mm.
on Walmart, with each of those little micro niches related to Kamala and Trump, both sides, right? Like my goal is to make money, so I work backwards. I'm not just gonna like have personal politics get in the way of me making money. Like I know a lot of people did that. Hey, it's all good, man. It's business, and there's no love lost between me and you because that's my competition. So if you want to leave one side to me, hey, I'll take it. Um, a lot of money was made, and on the flip side of chasing trends, like that was just an easy example. Like so much more money was made last year than normal, just due to the opportunity. Like those opportunities,
Mhm.
you can't manufacture them, right? People have to be out there actively seeking to buy this stuff, which they were, and it's not going to be the same this year. I understand that. But
Yeah.
when the trend opportunities aren't there, you fall back on your evergreens. All the work that you've been doing for the products that can sell any day of the year, they start to bolster your income and provide a floor.
Mm. Okay. I love that, and I think that's sound advice to not just pursue one or the other. I know I have a friend who does print on demand. She's kind of shifted actually out of doing her own printing, doing everything into just like, yeah, it's a lower profit margin, which I want to talk about in just a second. But she does a blend of this where she's like, I know the holidays are coming up. I know people are going to be looking for these things. So that's not something I'm pushing all the time. But I need to have, Christmas. I would be a lost opportunity not to post some designs for my niche within that season. And then there's other times it's like she has her core stuff that she ideally should not have to recreate for years because it's just going to be the stuff that performs all the time. So that makes perfect sense. And I think it's cool insight to understand that even Amazon specifically, you don't have to have the whole store. And that's really essentially for people listening. When you're on a listing, you click and it shows all the other things that people sell. I guess even in that, sometimes I've clicked and it's like the things aren't even connected. They're not even similar. And it's not like I'm less likely to purchase from them because, oh, I was buying a hammer and they also sell pants. Like, I don't
Right.
care. You do you, right? Yeah. Okay. So, like I mentioned, profit margins, I want to explain to people because there's not you can pay that cost associated with Printify to cut down on your I guess your share with them when you have different sales and stuff. But aside from that, like talk us through the difference between that and maybe something like FBA where you're sourcing the product and you have a higher margin, just so they understand how the numbers work.
For sure, yeah. With Amazon FBA, I guess a nice way of illustrating it is, you're invested right from the beginning, not just time, but money. I started an
Mhm.
FBA business in like late 2016 is when I placed my order, made my first sale early 2017 because there's time involved with manufacturing, shipping, etc. I was on the hook for $1,600 for the products in my first order, right? Those numbers scale up as the demand increases for your product. And then I paid $800 for shipping. So I'm in for $2,400. Okay. But
Mhm.
that brought my price per unit down significantly than if I were to like purchase the same product on Amazon, right? For, 30, 40% more for,
Mhm.
that's the seller's profit margin. And of course they pay Amazon fees, they pay ads, etc. Um, with print on demand, it's the opposite basically. Instead of me going and doing a bulk order of products and having like the best price possible, I recommend outsourcing fulfillment to these companies that specialize in it. Typically, Printify has the lowest prices. So even though Printify and Printful are the same company now, typically Printify is a little bit cheaper. Uh, Basically, you kind of just have to work with what you've got. Oftentimes, what this creates is what you would imagine. If you want to sell white 11-ounce coffee mugs, guess what? It's going to be you and it's going to be 1,000 other people all using the same fulfillment network for your white
Mhm.
11-ounce coffee mug. So you really got to figure out like what sets you apart. Is it your design ability? Is it your SEO? Is it just that you're unrelenting and you're willing to like put in the work every day to create good designs in evergreen niches or trends? And, eventually it's like not everything you upload is going to sell, but you're going to create wins. And of
Mhm.
those wins, some percentage of them will become bestsellers that you can like regularly bank on generating you sales. That's really how I see it. Again, but what's so cool about print on demand, on the flip side, you could go all in on just a couple listings and then go and spend all day trying to tweak and optimize your advertising campaigns so that you force those few product listings to become bestsellers. That's also on the table as an option. And then, of course, I would say another option is, you know, buy a t-shirt press. We have a t-shirt press in my wife's office. And if we want to, we can press t-shirts, we can press sweatshirts, hoodies, etc. It's just, how much is your time worth? You also cannot get
Mhm.
away from that. If your goal is to make money, like please, if there's one thing you take away from
Mhm.
this, it has nothing to do with print on demand. It's that your time is money. How do you
Mhm.
maximize the amount of money you make as a function of the time you invest in your business?
Yeah. And you're looking at the numbers a little differently where, obviously it sounds more appealing if you're starting out and you don't have a lot of capital anyway. The FBA thing, you're on the hook for that money until it sells. I've done that route. I've done both routes. And I think the other advantage where it could seem like a disadvantage at first, where I'm not making as much because I have the product cost and Printify or those companies can charge whatever they want for the thing. So I have to really like calculate that into my margin. But you're able to sell so much more, and this is when I had a conversation with my friend that shifted from having a whole like, it wasn't just a t-shirt press, it was an entire screen printing thing set up in her garage, and I was like, "Kate, you either need to, like, kinda choose you're a one-person operation right now. Do you wanna have a screen printing company, or do you wanna have a company where you're actually, like, selling things on these services?" Trying to do everything at once was leading to 0 return, and so at first, I think she hesitated to see, like, "Oh, but my margins are so much lower, I'm only making a few dollars." But her ability to sell so much more of those and how it added up was just different. So I think it's rooted in, like, time is money, and so decide what is the thing you wanna spend your time on, and for her, it was like she loves the designing. So why do the designing and the printing and the fulfillment and everything? You're robbing yourself of the thing you love. So,
Yeah, and I
yeah, I
wanted to
think
mention
that's
I know a couple people that like pretty much would be widely accepted as experts. Like I know multiple that moved away from self-fulfilling and they had warehouses, they had employees, etc., to outsourcing it. So I just wanted to mention that like I think exclusively people that did that, like where they move away from self-fulfillment. I don't really know anybody that's moved to self-fulfillment. Of course, it does get tempting at times, like when I
Mhm.
think of how cheap I could have this stuff, you know what I mean, how big those margins would be. But again, it's like if I'm not doing it, then someone else is doing it, then they have to get paid, and you know how that whole thing goes. And then it just starts scaling up into some big headache. And I don't know. You
Yeah.
can hear me kind of like giving my personal take there because I know there are
Mhm.
plenty of people that do it successfully. So I shouldn't be like talking people out of it, but yeah, it's definitely like more work than I'm willing to put in myself. When I can just easily leverage software, it's like a 2-click integration. Boom, I'm integrated with Etsy. Boom, I'm integrated with Amazon and I get automated order fulfillment. You can't beat that.
Yeah. No, you definitely cannot. So speaking of, even my friend and her love for design, if you're maybe somebody who's not super inclined to design, and I know you mentioned there's really inexpensive platforms you can use. You're using more sophisticated Illustrator, Photoshop. If I'm coming into this and I'm like, "Well, yeah, I have some really cool ideas, but I don't necessarily have I'm not inclined for design. That's not the thing I love. I just wanna make some money." What are some recommendations you have with where to even begin with that on maybe different levels of budget?
Absolutely. So my personal favorite way of doing design is text only, text based. It's
Mm,
so simple. Of course, there's still a million ways to go about it. So it's not like, you just, open up Microsoft Paint and type in Arial font and make a design like that, right? There's a lot that still goes into executing a text-based design elegantly in a way that makes sense, and it changes from niche to niche, right? Like even the font
Mhm.
family that you would use for a wedding niche font is going to be like a nice, elegant script font, right? Whereas if I want to do one for like a shirt that I wear to the gym, I'm going to do a big, bold, distressed font, right? Beyond that, things like I'm a big fan of like emphasis. Like I want somebody that sees my design out of the corner of their eye to know in a fraction of a second, like what the emphasis of this design is. If I have
Mhm.
10 different words on a shirt, I'm probably making like 1 to 2 words, the biggest and the boldest on a relative basis. Or maybe I even change the color of those words so that at a glance, you still see that first and you're like, I know what that shirt's about. And if you choose to,
Mhm.
then you can slow down and read the rest of the words or see the like secondary elements of the design. Stuff like
Yeah.
that can go such a long way. And there's really, I don't want to say no skill required, but it's certainly something that you don't need to be born with artistic ability to be able to execute. Obviously, like more practice, more reps, it's going to make that easier. Now, beyond text-based designs, because a lot of people I don't even think believe me, with the amount of
Mhm.
money I make from print on demand and like more than 50% of what I sell is text-based, truly.
Mm.
You can get graphics from places like there's websites that specialize in everything that you need to create print on demand designs. Like there's one specifically called creativefabrica.com. I'll give them a shout out because it's about $4 a month if you get like the best possible price. And then you get access to like pre-made graphics. You get access to like over 100,000 fonts. They've got, some AI tools that are like, okay, built in. It's probably not the best place to go for AI generated graphics. They've got, a word cloud generator. Like, how like sometimes they have a shape made of words. That's one of
Mhm.
my favorite tools that they have. So you can make those designs real easy. Um, Beyond that, like another, often paid option would just be leveraging AI. For instance, I did a video recently on Ideogram. They just released version 3.0, and it's absolutely insane how like nice these the designs that they'll create for you on demand are, and they'll output four at a time, so you can choose literally the best of the four, and you can tell it what text to include. You can tell it like the tiniest details. And when you don't specify something, what I also like is that they will go and like figure out, oh, I'm going to use this color scheme. You don't have to tell it exactly what color scheme to use. And they most likely are just looking at like bestsellers and
Mm.
picking like, taking hints of like what color schemes are working there. And so it can really help people that maybe lack the artistic eye or that are, just don't have time, unlike your friend who likes doing the design. Maybe they just want to outsource that. It's not their strength. And the AI does a really great job.
Yeah. Okay. So what is the legality with AI? Like, are there rules about AI generated designs and being able to just slap those on a t-shirt or a mug and sell them? Is there anything to consider with that?
As far as I know, like you cannot copyright the AI designs that they output. Here's the thing. There's no guarantee though that like when you use AI that it's not committing copyright infringement either, right? And it's really hard
Mhm.
to know that the design that it spit out is not already, or something extremely similar is already being sold somewhere. And this is
Yeah.
going to be one of those things. I don't know how we solve it in the future. I don't think it's really on us as print on demand sellers to solve. Like the system currently in its current state is that we kind of have to fend for ourselves. Like if we make original artwork that is not using AI, then we need to be the ones that go and look at other websites and see if other sellers are either ripping us off directly, like where they stole our design outright, or if they just created something that's so similar that we feel that they are infringing on our copyright, which you don't have to go and pay for copyright. Like that protection is automatically assigned in the US. And we can go and use a reporting mechanism like on Amazon, on Etsy, and get it taken down. With
Mm.
AI though, yeah, it's definitely creating like a little bit of a weird, like kind of gray area because obviously like the AI is not just like making it up on its own, right? It's going out and kind of studying what's out there and then coming up with the
Yeah.
designs.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's good to know, but obviously don't let that hold you back if that is a limitation. Like, is it possible just to have it generate something and then make your micro tweaks and make it your own, just like anything else that you might do?
Absolutely, yeah, and that's what's cool about like as you get better with designing. Like I don't even it's not real. I think when I say designing, people think like blank canvas, let me draw something, right? That to me is
Mhm.
designing. When I when you get more comfortable in the design apps, Canva, Kittl, Photoshop, Illustrator, whatever, doing what you just said is a great recommendation and doing those tweaks,
Hmm.
that don't require a lot of artistic ability. It just requires knowledge of how these apps work and what's possible. It becomes like I love doing what you just suggested. And it becomes very easy.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, so we've talked a little bit too about the marketing and how you listing on sites like Amazon and Etsy, you're going to where the sellers already are. So that limits, or I guess not limits, but frees up a little bit of the fear with marketing. So, but you still want to make sure that your listings are viable, that they're going to be visible. What are some of the things we need to consider if we are listing primarily on sites like this where yeah, the customers are there, but how do we help them see your stuff? Like how do we stand out in a huge marketplace?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is be realistic. Like I'm a realist to a fault. Like with print on demand, it's low barrier of entry on a relative basis, right? It's not Amazon FBA where we spend thousands of dollars to just launch a product, to
Mhm.
maybe make money, maybe lose money, right? It's not that, right? Because with that, there's a barrier of entry that's going to keep a lot of people out. With print on demand, we talked about it. It's low startup costs. The learning curve is steepest at the front end, and then it gets significantly easier as you progress. So I would say don't go in expecting everything to work. Like that's one
Mhm.
thing I would say. And what you can do to give yourself an edge is I love to do research specifically on Amazon because of the BSR, the best sellers rank that they publicly display on every product on Amazon. Okay. There's even
Hmm.
Chrome extensions that help you like more easily see the BSR of products so that when you do a keyword search and you just stay on the search results page, it'll load the BSR right there in front of you and display it on each product. My favorite one is called DS Amazon Quick View. It's free in the Chrome App Store. The BSR, the lower the better, right? Every category on Amazon has a number one bestseller. So that's the best case scenario.
Mhm.
Typically, though, what you're looking for in print on demand, you're let's say it's t-shirts, you're looking in the clothing, shoes, and jewelry category. Like you want to look for, any niche, right? You could type in like coffee shirt, right? And the average BSR of, let's say, the top 10 or even the whole first page of coffee shirt is going to be, let's just make something up and say 100,000 BSR. That's great. That means that, like on average, you're making about a sale a day. Then you
Mm.
go in, you type in, um, I don't know, the water shirt, water shirt's random. Probably not a lot of people that search that. The average BSR might be like 500,000. So you're making
Mm.
on average significantly less sales in that niche. Now, which one's better? Well, water shirt might actually be better because within reason, you're not going to just shoot your way up to the top spot on coffee shirt when it's significantly more likely to have a lot of competition. But something
Mhm.
that's a little bit more random, like water shirt, probably a lot less competition, right? Not because there isn't a low barrier of entry to print on demand as a business. Like that applies to every niche equally. But a lot of people have that one track mind where they're all thinking the same thing. Like, oh, Easter's coming up. Let me sell in Easter. Okay.
Mhm.
By them doing that, I'm just going to pivot away from Easter and do something else, and
Yeah.
give myself that advantage. So when I say be a realist, I want you to work within what's within your control. Like you don't control your competition, you control where you sell. If everybody's selling coffee shirts, do something random like water shirt, even though at the high end, your potential profit is significantly lower, right? Like even on an order of magnitude of 5, like in the example I gave, like it doesn't necessarily translate, by the way, like 100,000 versus 500,000, it would probably be significantly lower. But you could still probably make your first sale and maybe even regular sales selling in those overlooked niches
Mm.
versus trying to compete with everybody else in those big trends. Because I'm sure you guys have heard this, but like, page 2 of Amazon is where the dead bodies are buried, right? Like, because no one
Mhm.
ever goes there, right? You got to be on like page 1 or it's really tough. So, and there's other strategies, but just at a high level, I would say, just give yourself a chance, a fighting chance. It's
Yeah.
not that you can't sell coffee shirts, but it's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to talk too about like the quantity of products because now we don't have to worry about keeping stock. So you could be designing all day, you could be putting out new designs all the time, putting up new products all the time. Is there like, are we kind of looking at this in terms of, I just interviewed somebody the other day where you're kind of building real estate online when you put content out there because it can live there forever? Is it kind of a similar thought process when you're listing print on demand products? Like the more the merrier because they can just continue to sell and climb and you're just compounding your ability to earn every single day because you have a huge amount of products online.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because that was one of my mantras that I thought was original. Then I would have it in the back of my head while I was scaling my business. It was that you should occupy as much online real estate as possible. Like, because
Mhm.
when you're starting off and this is not necessarily like validated and verified, like even if you see somebody like me, it's like people need to do it themselves to really feel like they belong. And
Mhm.
so like I had to keep myself motivated. So that was one of those things. I said, this makes logical sense to me. If I keep posting quality products on Amazon, on Etsy. I mean, initially I was only on Amazon, by the way. So I wasn't even on Etsy. I just assumed that it would work because I had that automated fulfillment. Therefore, theoretically, you know what? And I would break my income down into dollars per day. That way, like it wasn't super skewed if I had like 3 sales on a Tuesday, 0 sales on Wednesday, right? And then 1 sale on Thursday. Like that could average out to, 1.3 sales a day. And I would average out the income I made. I would honestly go every morning, like basically, after I get ready for the day, sit down at my computer before I even left for work, open a spreadsheet and log my income from the previous day because I just wanted to see it and know that like I'm making progress. It's another
Mm,
day. Keep working. You see what you're working towards in the future. And whatever mind games you really have to play to like make it work for you and not quit on this. And I was going to mention
yeah.
real quickly too, I have income reports for my first 5 years that I published every month for my journey. It's on YouTube. It's on my blog at ryanhogue.com. So you can see how like unimpressive my journey really was. I mean, my FBA journey was honestly a lot more impressive because I did that pretty quickly to big numbers, but print on demand really took me a long time because there wasn't nearly as much good info. Hopefully, like this interview, you might consider good info out there to help you get started and get on the right path.
Yeah. Well, if you're willing to share, you don't have to go into exact numbers, but like what would you consider your highest earner right now? Are we looking at FBA, print on demand, Amazon influencer? I know those are the three things that you primarily focus on. And where's your like ratio of what brings in the most?
So like I'm very diversified in my income streams. Like even within print on demand, you could already tell I'm not just on Amazon, right? I'm on Amazon, Etsy, eBay, Walmart.
Yeah.
I love that. I think it's, if I could make like let's just say $1 million through one income stream or a million through 20, I would take 20, even though it might be
Mhm.
harder to manage, just to be hedged. So, and I don't mind sharing, like I have some articles out there, like CNBC, like validated my income, from 2023
Mhm.
and it was just under like 50,000 a month profit. But from print on demand, that was a smaller percentage. I don't honestly remember off the top of my head because that was 2023. Last year in 2024, which was a great year for print on demand, like with the eclipse, with the election cycle, um, it was a great year for print on demand for a lot of reasons. I made $235,000 profit after
Mm.
deducting every like fee associated with running a print on demand business, including ads, right? Including Amazon fees, Etsy fees. Every time you make an order, you pay them, etc. It was $235,000 profit for me from print on demand. That was 2024. And I mean, for context too, it's like I'm at that point where I'm at like 95% automated. You know what I mean? I said
Yeah.
that you could
Yeah.
automate about 95%. I think like I'm at that point. So
Mm.
I mean, I did do a little bit more active work last year because of the new trends popping up every day and pursuing those. And I mean, there's only so much time in a day. So when I'm doing that, I'm not doing other things. But
Mhm.
it was a very like fruitful year that, and I mean, it was something that like was not, I'm not like gatekeeping and doing stuff that other people aren't capable of doing. My number one average income stream from print on demand is a program called Amazon Merch, which we didn't even really touch on.
Mhm.
And just so you know, I didn't sell any trends in my Amazon Merch account. You know what I mean? That was one thing I probably left like tens of thousands, like honestly, probably like 40K if I had to guess, if I had to pick a number on the table without getting into too much detail why I didn't do that. Those merch accounts are like very strict on what you sell. And you know
Mm.
how like Amazon sometimes it's like, oh, Trump this is okay today and Trump that is not okay. Or
Mhm.
whatever thing in the news is like, okay, one day, not okay. I just said it's not worth it because I've been, so invested into that, building up that account, that reliable income.
Yeah.
But so without that, without the main thing that if anybody wanted to say, oh, he's doing something that other people can't do, that would be the only thing you could possibly say. And I didn't pursue trends with that
Mm.
last year.
Interesting. Well, I love it. I love the ability to just like let us peek behind the curtain on that. I know that's something that's transparency is the word I'm looking for. It's so helpful. And I also want to clarify that. I think you've been really, really clear on the fact that that was not an overnight thing. That took, that's time and effort. And even in the beginning, you said you're not going to start automating and putting this at 95% automation when you're getting started. But it's cool that it's available to you, that that's a direction that you can go. As we kind of start to wrap this up, I just want to paint that picture for people and get a little bit of insight for you. You mentioned you have like whole laptops open that are just running these automations and designing and doing things like that. How has AI, can you give us like some tangible examples of how you're utilizing AI and even some of these systems to help you make that income even more passive than it used to be?
I'm happy to do that. Yeah. It's what's funny is one person specifically, right? There's so many tools, so I'm not trying to knock all the tools that are out there, but one person
Yeah.
sought me out when I was just a small YouTuber in 2019. Okay, so like over 5 years ago at this point. And he was like, "Hey, can I show you my automation tool? It's relevant to you as a print on demand seller." And I said, "Sure." And I mean, when I say small YouTuber, a couple thousand subscribers maybe. And he sat down, spent an hour with me, showed me the tool. That tool, I ended up, showing my audience and becoming an affiliate for, but implementing in my business. And here we are 5.5 years later. I mean, I'm still using it.
Mm,
That tool specifically on that day, what it aimed to do was replace the need for me to go to websites like Redbubble, like we talked about for beginners, or Amazon merch, and click and upload my file and then key in the title and the brand and the bullet points. What I do now is I make a spreadsheet and I funnel the spreadsheet into this app, and the app just works off the spreadsheet.
mm,
So it replaces the need for me to spend so many hours building up this business. And so that's just one part of running a print on demand business. That's the upload portion.
mhm,
Okay. But obviously there's the research portion. Well, there's research tools now that can both help me find evergreens, but also help me find trends. I was going to say, you know how Amazon shows us the BSR, the bestseller rank? It also shows the date first available. So if you put two and two together, you can look at
mm,
the date first available. And if a product's never sold, it doesn't have a BSR. If it has sold, it has a BSR. Well, if I'm seeing repetition of the same similar products that were uploaded in the last 24 hours that have sold because they have a BSR, well, guess what? That could be an emerging trend. You know what
mm.
I mean? It's simple, right? It's a simple concept, but I mean, smart
Yeah.
people figured it out, and these tools will just serve them to me on a platter. So I'm early to trends. So that's the
Mm,
research. The design, I can literally do spreadsheets again. I used to hate spreadsheets, by the way. I'm not a spreadsheet guy, but I had to force myself to learn. I can feed in lists of variables, words, foods, right? If I want to make food themed shirts or something, or maybe a beach themed shirt might be a better. Like I can go get a beach graphic, like maybe a silhouette, and then I can have Adobe Illustrator work in names of different beaches in the United States or even around the world. It'll swap the text and then download it for me. Okay. So
wow.
then I can load all of these into software. Like I talked about my friend back in 2019. He's literally a friend, by the way. Like I invited him to my wedding. Like we go and we see him every year. We're gonna go see him in like a month, like he's a good guy. We are friends with his wife too, just a cool guy. And we have a lot of similar interests. We love making money with print on demand, right?
Yeah.
And he's extended that to more software where literally I can, let's just say I use Illustrator like I just described, make 100 designs. I can drag and drop, upload them into his software, his new software. It's called My Designs. It'll use AI to read the graphics. So I'm not even doing anything. Literally, I'm not skipping any steps. Upload. Then I literally say, AI, read these designs and do good SEO. And then I
Mm,
snap my fingers within a minute. All 100 are done. They'll do an AI optimized title, description. If I'm selling on Etsy, you need tags. It'll do all 13 tags just like that. You can do all of your mockups in minutes. Okay. So if I want to sell on Amazon, it's like you just need one mockup. On Etsy, you typically want to have like at least 5, 6. It goes up to 10 done in minutes. And then I can
wow.
bulk publish 100 products to Etsy on t-shirts, mugs, a million products, honestly, candles, just like so many random things in minutes. So in like 10, 15 minutes, I can be done with 100 products start to finish. Like it's crazy.
That is so crazy. I definitely have people I need to share that with. So be sure to give us some really good links, maybe your affiliate links or something we can put in the notes to send back to those softwares. Because if you're listening to this and you have already started a print on demand business, I think sometimes the barrier of entry makes it, it'll get saturated, whatever. We can fear that, but it's so crazy. We're going to be in a transition period. Like we're going to be in that interim where not everybody's going to jump right on AI and optimizing and using these systems. But in the meantime, be one of those people who are, so that you can have a tremendously huge output and ability to start making a lot of money. Like you can make the rest of your life's money in the next few years using the systems that you have set up. And yeah, if somebody's listening and they're just getting started, that feels really overwhelming. Do the work, get to that point, and the work can even look so much differently now than it did when you first started. Work smarter, not harder, but learn the fundamentals and you can have a huge thriving business with print on demand. That's so cool. The things that used to be like super cumbersome can be done in 5 minutes. That's crazy. Blows my mind.
That can be your edge, literally. Like if you're new, that could be your edge over the established sellers that are slow to adopt the new technologies.
Yeah.
If you integrate a software like My Designs right out of the beginning, like that, because I always want to have a discernible edge with anything I'm spending my time doing. Like even if it's just
Hmm.
like gaming online for fun, right? I want something to make sense. I don't want to be like the worst
Yeah.
player in the game. So if we treat business like a game and you have software like My Designs that other people are slow to adopt or they don't even know about, there you go. Basically in a nutshell, it helps you monetize AI like right away. You know what I mean? From
Mm,
a design perspective to a SEO perspective to doing the mock-ups to publishing, it does everything.
yeah. Amazing. Thank you so, so much for all of the insight. Like, I love that we could just go, go, go because you know your stuff. You've been at this long enough. We didn't even really share a lot of your personal story, but if you want to just kind of wrap up with that, because you got here after a lot of hard work, but you didn't start in this space. So just give us, we're kind of like ending with the beginning, but I would just love everybody to hear where you came from so they have a little bit of hope and understanding. So many success stories don't start where you think they started.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I think like if you made it to the end of this and you're feeling inspired, just act on that. Like for me, I was making really good money as a web developer. I've always been kind of like I said, I want to make as much money as I can from the work that I do, like maximize the income. I'm blanking on the word, but like so I was a web developer, 9 to 5. I taught web development and I had a web development company, so I would like charge for web hosting, build websites, etc. You know what I mean? It was very active income though. It wasn't gonna set me free and help me live that life that we all kind of want to dream of. So I knew something had to change. Tried to start an Amazon business, couldn't figure it out. Just being honest, I could not figure it out. Like it's tough.
Hmm.
I randomly, man, the universe just provided for me when I needed it most. Like I was supporting my friend at some like small like local business owner event, right? And I crossed paths with a guy who literally what he does is everybody stood up and introduced themselves. He's like, coach people on how to sell on Amazon. I said, no way. I was like, I cannot leave this place without crossing. I need to talk to that guy before I leave. Literally, it was like it just fell right in my lap. I said, dude, handshake, I'm gonna hire you. Paid $2,500, got my Amazon FBA business off the ground. From there, I was on Reddit looking at like, I mean, literally, I'm on Reddit. I'm not looking at like the sports Reddit. I'm looking at the Reddit on the subreddit on how to make money online, right? So I'm in the right
Hmm.
place. And I find out about print on demand. You know what I mean? It's just like, man, I just kind of vibed and flowed with the universe. The universe provided if you want to go there. Like I kind of feel like, man, you could call it coincidence or whatever. But I really feel like in life, like I'm just set up for success if I'm actively like wanting it and kind of putting it out there that like I want to do more. I want to make
Hmm.
more. And I don't like fight it when it presents itself, right? I hired the FBA coach, find out about print on demand, go and apply for my Amazon merch account. You know what I mean? The next thing was I figured out that on my Amazon FBA Seller Central account, I could link it up with software like Printful and I could sell even more products, right? And before you knew it, I created this whole complementary income stream. And then I started a YouTube channel to tell my story. Now I coach people as well. And I don't even know what's next, but it's been a really exciting ride.
Amazing. Okay. So that being said, where's the best place for them to find you now that this episode is over? They want more, they want to learn all the things. What's the best spot for them to run to?
I would say ryanhogue.com is my website. Join my mailing list. I try to send a fun newsletter out every Monday too, with like a picture and a wrap up of my weekend too. So it's a little bit personable. Then of
Yeah.
course we get to the business as well, and YouTube at Ryan Hogue Passive Income, closing in on 200,000 subscribers.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ryan, for everything that you've shared. It's been such a fun conversation. I've learned a ton from you, things I'm so excited to go share with friends of mine in this same arena. So I appreciate everything that you've shared.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course, anytime. Come back.